Welcome back to In Focus Kentucky. On today's episode, we're previewing Kentucky's 6th district race where incumbent Republican Andy Barr will take on Democratic nominee Amy McGrath in what is shaping up to be one of the most competitive elections in America. And once again, Amy McGrath joined us on the program earlier, and Congressman Andy Barr was extended an invite to appear on the show as well. His campaign office tells us due to scheduling conflicts, he was unable to make it. But we hope to get the congressman on the show during the month of October. Now, joining me here in studio is Michelle Lindstrom, anchor and producer of Pure Politics, which you can see right here on Spectrum News, weeknights at 7 p.m., and also Dave Cruisenklaus, host of Cruiser and Crew, and you can listen to his program weekdays from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. on News Talk 590 WVOK and also 97.3 FM. Thanks so much for joining us, both of you all.
Thank you, Mario.
Absolutely, and we'll start with you first, Michelle. You've covered obviously campaigns and elections throughout your career, and what is it about this race that has caused so much attention over the last year?
Well, I think it's twofold. First off, the Democrats, they targeted this as a district that they can flip blue. It's about whether they have had Democratic representatives there before and they believe that they can really have another representative there. And then you have McGrath's first ad that she released, and that ad went viral, and that really focused the national attention on this race. It was a great ad, and I think that combined with the money they're pouring in with the ad really set up the national stage for this race. Now,
Cruiser, obviously you have covered past 6 congressional primaries and general elections, and based on your experience, how does this race compare to previous races here in the state of Kentucky?
Well, as Michelle said, it's usually been a district that can flip. It's the only congressional district that can flip in the state of Kentucky. And I think one of the key things with this particular race is 2 items. One's money. Amy McGrath, with that bio ad, was able to start raising money in a hurry. If you look at what Rand Paul was able to do when he ran for the Senate the first time, what was the difference? He had money, and he beat an establishment candidate from the Republican Party, Trey Grayson. The other wild card here, I think, is Trump. You have an electorate on the Democratic side that's more energized. You have candidates like Amy McGrath, first-time candidates, particularly women, that decided this time they were going to step up and they were going to run because they weren't happy with who was leading the country. They weren't happy with the president. And so I think those 2 items have made this a much more competitive race than the last 2 cycles where Andy Barr was able to easily outraise his 2 opponents and cruise to victory.
Now, Michelle, we've seen both candidates on the campaign trail throughout the 6th district, the different 19 counties that are in the district, and Andy Barr specifically has stepped up his appearances with veterans and the military people who have served. Is that something that's resonating with potential voters for Andy Barr?
I mean, there's something resonating. Internal polls were showing, even just, I want to say, a month ago, that Amy McGrath was ahead. Far ahead, I think by double points. And now when you're seeing internal polls, and of course we have to take into account that polling in Kentucky is really not that reliable. Now pollings are showing quite different. They have Andy Barr up in a couple, and so maybe it's the barrage of attack ads, or maybe it is that he is going and meeting out with veterans and highlighting the veterans that are supporting him. The ad just released this Monday has a veteran, Army veteran, saying that he supports Andy Barr and what Andy Barr did to help him.
Now, on that note with Cruiser, Amy McGrath, she shared with us that before this particular race, she was actually registered independent. She also shared that her husband is a Republican. Then obviously she is very open that she is not going to vote the party line with every vote. Is that something that you see if she's voted into Congress, that she'll stick with that plan, or kind of what's the situation on that?
I don't know. Maybe I've gotten cynical. That seems to be pretty much a catchphrase that's well-focused group tested, that I'm going to go in there and there's no bad Republican ideas, there's no bad Democratic ideas, but then you get there and you want plum committee assignments, and let's think of it this way too, 435 members and you're down here at the bottom of the seniority list, so I'm a little skeptical. I think both sides tend to vote 90% plus with their particular party. So I find that to be well-tested, well-researched line that seems to work in a 30-second ad. I don't know that I quite buy it.
Well, and in a district like this, you have to almost say that, because she cannot go.
Right.
Andy Barr's trying to pander as too liberal, and she has to be careful to not go that she is too liberal. So she has to say she's not going to vote the party line. And of course, everybody knows Republicans' favorite attack is Nancy Pelosi. And so she's going to say, I'm not going to vote for Nancy Pelosi. I'm not going to vote party lines. She has to almost say that if she wants to remain competitive in this race.
And those ads are working. Because as you said, Michonne, in June, the Republicans' their congressional committee polling was showing that McGrath was nicely ahead in June, and her positives were up. That's changed now. Her positives are down, Andy Barr is up. Now, some of that, too, I think is a product of people paying more attention. They weren't paying attention in June. People are starting to pay attention to this race now. But I think the ads, and he's got a new one out now, where he directly goes after 3 points that she made in that last ad where she's sitting on that porch step. He goes after open borders, he goes after the socialized medicine issue, and he goes after abortion. All three things that she'd covered in a previous ad, and uses her words against her in his ads, and I think they are having some of an effect. Meanwhile, the McGrath campaign seems to be going with softer ads. I mean, the ad with Mom sort of reminds me of the ad that Allison Lundgren Grimes did with her grandparents, with her grandmothers. Good ad. It was effective. And I think that ad's effective too. It'll be interesting to see if the McGrath campaign stays with that strategy or if they start coming out with a little stronger medicine.
And just a few moments ago, we did talk about voters at the ballot box, and obviously here in the state of Kentucky, the numbers traditionally are pretty low for voters coming out during the election cycle, especially in a non-presidential year. But with these particular candidates, a lot of interest on both sides. Do you think these candidates could draw out voters who normally may not come out to vote? Will they come out to vote to select one side? We'll go with you, Michonne.
I mean, I know that that's definitely what they're hoping for, and there is a lot of energy, and a lot of it has to do with the national politics and Trump and people fed up and angry. And so we could see an increase, and I think we will see an increase in voters, but I don't think we're going to see anything extremely substantial or remarkable.
What I'm interested in seeing is you have elections across the country that are playing to their prospective bases. And this one's really no exception. It's the people in between, particularly people who may like the economy. They may like a few things Trump does, but they don't like Trump, particularly if they lean right. What are they going to do? Who are they going to support? Are they going to show up? I think it's interesting because there's been some reporting and some polling done here recently. Trump uses the term fake news with great effect with his base to slam the media. But that may come back, ironically, to harm him because there are people out there that voted for Trump that think this whole blue wave's fake news. Well, if too many voters think, conservative voters, Barr voters, think the blue wave is fake news and they don't show up, that could hurt Republican candidates like Andy Barr.
But working in Barr's favor in the 6th District specifically, they have added 9,000 Republican voters and only 2,000 Democratic voters.
That's
so
right.
if there is a turnout or increase in voters, it's going to work in the Republicans' favor in the 6th District.
Well, Michonne and Cruiser, we both really appreciate both of you all for joining us here on In Focus Kentucky and providing some perspective and analysis of the race, the campaign race as we are today, just less than 60 days away from Election Day.
Thanks, Mario.
Thanks so much for watching In Focus Kentucky. You can watch this or any of our past shows online at spectruminfocus.com, and be sure to join us next week as we discuss National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month and talk about veteran suicide awareness efforts here in the Commonwealth. Until then, have a great week.